Königssee in Bavaria. We're down in the southeastern corner of Germany, surrounded on three sides by Austrian Alps. And it is here that the oldest refrigerated bobsleigh track in the world is just outside Berchtesgaden. Hello everybody, I'm Martin Haven in Königssee for the first of our two heats of the Viessmann FIBT Women's Skeleton World Cup. This is the fourth stop on the tour, the second consecutive one in Germany as we start our European swing. And alongside me in the booth here, overlooking the finish area, is Ben from the New Zealand team. Ben Sanford, what is the biggest challenge about this track?
It's not a very long track here, but it's quite a technical track. You have the snake corners at the top of the track. You're then in the bend away, which is a long straight, which isn't a straight. And then the exit of Kreisel is also very difficult on this track. Here you can see the POV of the skeleton slider going down the track, coming into the snake corners. The first is the left-hand corner in the snake corners, and you really need to get off this corner early and set yourself up for snake 2. Going into snake 3 here, and you want to be high, close to the roof here, and get some speed coming out of here. You sort of have to swing through the S-curves. Here you're on the bend away. You'll see the athletes taking a small hit on the left-hand side and then going straight through the bottom of the straight, and here setting themselves up for Kreisel. In Kreisel, it's a delicate balance between steering too much and not steering enough. The third pressure in Kreisel is the key, and that's going to set you up for the flick-flacks, or the chicane, as some people call it, down the bottom. Here you're setting yourself up for the bottom of the track and the new echo corner at the bottom. And from here you're just going uphill, so you want a clean exit from the echo corner and then glide through the final 2 corners.
Well, it is quite an old track, designed and built in 1969. The bottom part of the track caught fire 3 or 4 years ago when it was comprehensively rebuilt from curve 13 on down to the finish. And there is the area that gives this place its name. It's the Königssee, the King's Lake. King Ludwig III of Bavaria was a favourite holiday place of his in the summer. And it is the clearest lake in Europe, the Germans claim. Maria Giordoni, one of the front runners here, potentially today. There's Jane Channel of Canada. The weather, though, is warm. I mean, around us it's green. I was saying this morning, it'd be nice to come back here in the winter when it's all kind of covered in snow, but we might actually get that tomorrow.
Yeah, it does really feel like spring or autumn today. We can look out the window here and see the green fields surrounding the track, and you saw there the ice temperature was 6.5 degrees, and or the air temperature was 6.5 degrees, and the ice temperature just below 0.
Well, German women are leading our World Cup standings. Tina Hermann and Sophia Griebel, neither of whom have won a race yet. Janine Flock of Austria in 3rd place, ahead of Rose McGrandle. Race winners this year, well, we've had 3 of them. 3 races, 3 different winners. Lizzie Yarnold, the Olympic champion. Elizabeth Vachier of Canada, the big surprise of the North American leg one in Calgary. And Maria Oliver, only 17th in the points. Her first World Cup race of the season was last week in Altenburg, and she claimed her first career gold medal. Well, so she is really on a high. Marina Giordoni set a brand new start record last week. I talked to her after training yesterday, and she's hoping to do the same and convert that into pace. And Anja Huber, whose best result this season is only a 7th place, looking to get among the medals. Maybe Tina Hermann, she was fastest in training yesterday. 21 sliders in the field, the fastest 20 will go into Heat 2. Getting heat number 4, race number 4 of the World Cup underway. Marina Giordoni, the 27-year-old former bobsledder from Switzerland. Start record is a 4.95. She set it herself, 4.91. That's exactly how to get your day off to a great start, Ben Sanford.
Fantastic start from Marina. She's a fantastic athlete, and fast last week and fast again here in the start. Here we see her in the S-curves, getting some height in S3 and trying to set it up for the straight in S4.
This straight is the least straight thing I've ever seen in my life. You have that little chicane in the middle, then down into Jena. What about the Kreisel? Where are you looking to steer off?
You really need to control the third pressure in Kreisel, and this is going to be a key area for the athletes today, is getting that exit right.
Otherwise, you're late into the flick-flacks.
Yeah, and the flick-flacks or the chicane, very difficult if you don't get the right entrance there, and you saw Marina having a lot of trouble through there and getting thrown off her sled a little bit.
Let's see what she can carry to the line through the final corner. 52.49 slide. Well, the track record here is nearly 0.5 of a second quicker. Marion Thies set it in 2011 in the World Championships, 52.01. And those S's, that going away shot is one of the best in sliding. If it's right, you trickle down the middle.
Here we see her going through the chicane. Too long on the first part of the chicane. It throws her into the wall across the other side, and then that corner coming up afterwards is just horribly difficult to get right.
And presumably, that is all back to the exit off the Kreisel.
Absolutely. You really need to get the exit of Kreisel. You need to balance the stairs when you come out of Kreisel and get that right to get that part of the track.
Well, I don't think there's anybody sliding that's not had a wild ride down in the doodles. Next up, Anja Huber-Selbach, now 31 years old and married over the summer. 2008 skeleton world champion, former World Cup champion as well. But this year, best result was last week in Altenburg, 7th place. So she is struggling for pace. A little delay at the start before she gets the green light ready to go. What about this start area, Ben, though? Is it a short sprinter's one, or is it a long run like Altenburg?
It's a really short start here in Königssee. Only maybe 15 metres until a really sharp drop-off over the crest. So the athletes aren't going to be running very far. We really could see a track record today. The conditions are good. In training, we saw sometimes very close to the track record. Anja's got a lot of experience. She grew up sliding on this track, doing luge first and then skeleton. Had a lot of runs down here. Nice line through the S-curves. Skidding a little bit there in the bend away, taking that tap on the left-hand side, and that sets her up to go cleanly through the bottom of the bend away.
1:18.5 in the Kreisel, decent speed.
Nice line through Kreisel so far. She could have trouble down here. No, she gets through okay.
Speed at the bottom, 1:13.3. That's 3 kilometers an hour faster than Marina Giordani, the current leader. But she's still behind. Can she find it in the last corners? Yes, she does. 700s in front of 52.42. Well, Ben, that didn't look to be only 700s neater and tidier than Marina's. So where's the difference? Is that all counting back from the start?
The start can carry a long way on this track. Marina had a good top of the track, so the additional time that she gained at the top and the start is going to carry her right through until she made the mistakes and flick-flicks after Kreisel.
Well, we've seen races won or lost at the bottom, but it starts at the top here.
Here you see Anja loading onto her sled, trying to get that additional push from the load. Coming out of Kreisel here into the chicane, quite close to the left-hand wall and then quite late on the end of the first part of the chicane. Throws her across a bit, but not much.
Tina Hermann of Germany, our World Cup points leader, fastest in the final day of training with both of her runs. Could this be our 4th different winner of the season?
And could this be a track record?
Well, just 22 years old, she really is the shining star of Germany's future. 5:23 though, she was only 17th or 18th at the start and yet still set fastest times.
Yeah, her speeds on this track have been phenomenal this week. Just builds the speed as she goes down the track. So clean through the top here. Nice line coming out of S4.
She's the new Marion Thies, slow at the start and lightning at the bottom.
Doing a bit too much work in the bend away there. She's very good in the Kreisel.
1.5 kilometers an hour slower than Anja Huber into the Kreisel, but 3/10 behind.
If she's going to pick up the time, it's all going to be picked up in the bottom of the track.
Same speed as Anja Huber there. No, she's not going to make up 1/3 of a second in the last 2 corners. That's flat and then uphill to the line. And she doesn't. She stalls there. 52.78 slide. Well, last week in Altenburg, she was the surprise leader, perhaps, after the first heat, and then slumped out of the medals.
I'm surprised about that time. She was quicker in training than she was today.
Well, she started 5:23. Marina Giordani, 4:91. 3200s behind at the start alone.
Here you see Tina pushing at the start. Not the fastest athlete in the field, and she's going to rely a lot on her sliding down the track to pick up the time. Here she is in Kreisel, and she normally does Kreisel so well. She's had some trouble at the lower part of the bend away. She goes into Kreisel, but she manages to set herself up, and you can see her perfect form on the sled. Feet together, shoulders down.
Anja Huber-Selbach leading for Germany. First of our 2 heats here in Königssee in Bavaria. 36-year-old Canadian Lynette Prediger, 7th place in Calgary. So that's her big standout performance so far this season in her first ever year of World Cup sliding.
Lynette likes this track. She was here in the pre-season and she did some training on the track, and she also won one of the Europa Cup races here at the start of the season.
5:23, same as Tina Hermann. So it can be interesting to compare her with the local girl and see where she ends up. Well, on splits at the moment, 3rd place, coming onto the bend away, ahead of Tina Hermann.
Yeah, working a little bit in the bend away there, but not as much as Tina.
1:18.1, a kilometre an hour quicker than the local girl.
Wide, high in Kreisel.
2800s, still in 3rd place.
Coming into Echo. And from here, all you're doing is going uphill. So you want to steer as little as possible and be as clean as possible.
She drops behind Hermann, 4400s behind. Didn't quite have the speed down out of the Kreisel. 52.96 for Lynette. A pretty neat and tidy run. Altenburg is a really tough driver's track. Is Königssee as technical as well, but without the sort of fear factor?
It's interesting. Some athletes really have a problem in Königssee, especially on the Exeter Kreisel. It really can be difficult, the Exeter Kreisel here. You see Lynette in the first pressure in Kreisel. It's a 3-pressure Kreisel. And she's going to probably start steering a bit too soon there, and that's going to push the sled even higher. So she's quite close to the roof here, trying to hold the sled up there with her left leg. And then here in the 3rd pressure, you see her getting quite close to the roof. Too high there, and from there you're just going to drop out. And the danger is you're going to hit that right wall, and that's going to throw you across the track into the left wall, and then you flip.
And then the walls just keep coming at you, don't they, on both sides. So it is Anja Huber-Selbach, Germany, the leader. This is our Olympic champion, one of 3 different winners so far this season. Victorious in Lake Placid, missed Calgary, and then silver medal last week in Altenburg. This is Ben's bet for victory, Lizzie Yarnold of Great Britain.
Lizzie's just a fantastic slider. You see her form there, her head's so close to the ice. Really nice position on the sled, relaxed. Looks like she's doing nothing here.
This is sort of Lizzie's secret, isn't it? A little bit like Martin Sir Thomas Ducos and Gregor Staley. Seems to be doing nothing because everything's so finely tuned.
Yeah, and she's in the lead already. Coming into Kreisel, and this is going to be important, how she gets the end of Kreisel.
Not quite as quick as Anja Huber into the Kreisel. Huber had 1:13 out.
That's a very nice line out of Kreisel. Made it look easy.
1:15.2. She will keep her lead and extend it to the line. 2500s through Echo. Are we in danger of breaking the track record? 52.01, not quite. 52.06. But that was just the opening salvo. Second heat now. Race day ice is always slightly different because of the weather and the preparation from the previous day. So that gives her a chance now to go back up, have a think, and maybe even go faster in heat 2.
Yeah, really good run from Lizzie there. You see her coming out of S4. She touches the wall there. She's let it run out of S4 a little bit too much maybe, but she gets it across to take that tap on the left side. You want to take that tap, which is going to set you up for the bottom part of the bend away.
Well, she ran a long way past the finish area. That's how quick the ice is. 500ths away from the track record. Lizzie Yarnold of Great Britain is our leader in heat 1 of 2 in Königssee.
Hello, Katie.
Sophia Griebel of Germany, 24 years old, currently lies 2nd in the World Cup rankings. 2 4th positions in the last 2 races, Calgary and in Altenburg, her best. She was eased off the podium by her teammate Tina Hermann in Calgary. Looking for her first World Cup medal still. Like Hermann, this is her breakout season in World Cup sliding. But Ben Sanford, the Germans come fully formed to the World Cup. They're not still learning. They know what they're up about.
They really do. They've been sliding for a long time, these athletes, and they have a lot of experience on the German tracks in particular. And so they're expecting good results. They want to be on the podium here.
5:09, just a couple of hundreds behind our current leader, Lizzie Yarnold, at the start.
Nice lines through the top of the track, not doing too much on the sled. skidding a little bit as she tries to get that hit in the bend away. And then, oh, she hits down the bottom of the bend away. Controlling it well in Kreisel. Not the most ideal exit, a little bit too much to the left.
Fourth place at the moment, just in front of teammate Tina Hermann. What she got at the bottom, Hermann was quicker, so she'll drop to fifth. 52.94 slide for her. So she is, what, 1600s behind Tina Hermann, her teammate.
I think one thing you can see from the German team today is they've taken what I would call the more conservative line coming out of Kreisel. The faster line, I would say, would be to be a little bit higher in that third pressure and let it drop out. But here we see her coming out of S4, and she's just moved her head to the left to try and get that hit, and the sled is just broken away from her a little bit, and she's skidding. And when you're skidding in the straight, that's just going to be bleeding your time away. Then unfortunately for her, she just touches down the bottom of the straight, and that throws her across and then late into the corner before Kreisel.
Plus it throws her sideways for the second time, so that all has the same effect of ice skates getting sideways, slowing you down. You can afford to lose pace at that stage. Lizzie Arnold of Great Britain still leading. Our third different winner this season. Last week in Altenburg was Maria Oliver. Her first World Cup race of the season. She claimed the gold. She wasn't among the fastest in the final day of training, but she now knows that she's got more than potential, Ben, to win.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the big things about winning is knowing that you can win. And she knows that now.
She'll have been really disappointed to have been just off the podium in Sochi last year in the Olympic Games. That's her only chance in her life to have a home games, perhaps. But now she knows she can win. She's got to keep finding that consistency. 1400s in the lead out of S4.
She hits there again. Another athlete hitting in the bottom of the bend away.
Great speed.
That's what I would call the quicker line, but she doesn't quite get that rhythm through the chicane there.
Speed not great. She is in third place at the moment. Might drop behind the two German girls by the line. And in fact, she is in front of Tina Hermann and Sophia Griebel, fourth place. Saw coach Willi Schneider, looked relatively happy with that. You're in fourth, but there are things you can tidy up, so that's a bonus.
Yeah, absolutely. When you get to the bottom of the run and you know that you've made mistakes and you're in fourth place, you know you can go faster, and that's always something to give you something positive to think about going into the second heat. Here in the bend away, taking that touch on the left. Maybe that touch was just a little bit too much, or the sled corrects itself a little bit because she just takes another hit down here. She's trying to steer away from it, but she hits, and that's going to slow her down as she goes into Kreisel, and that's probably one of the reasons why we saw her go from leading the race to not leading the race around Kreisel.
Yeah, that Kreisel, the run down into the Kreisel cost her about a quarter of a second. Next up is Laura Dees of Great Britain. Silver medal. Her first World Cup podium was in Calgary in Canada just before Christmas. She and teammate Rose McGrandle were pretty quick in training, but McGrandle, who comes up next, seemed to have the advantage. Let's see if Laura, she was trying different runners. Well, she was hoping to try different runners yesterday, but they were in the car. She couldn't find them for the second heat, so she went on the same ones. .494 getaway, that's all a vital part of the armoury.
That's a fantastic start from Laura. She's a really good athlete, and 4.94 is a great time.
Check out on our Bobsleigh and Skeleton Facebook site. You can see her chatting after training yesterday, giving you a few hints and tips about the track and the runs. Gone from 2/10 up to a 10th up onto the straight. Behind now into the Kreisel.
Yeah, doing quite a bit of work in the straight there, and quite high in the second pressure in Kreisel. A little bit of a bump on the exit of Kreisel, but looks like it's okay.
Like a relatively tidy run through the doodles. 1:10.9. She's lost speed though. You can hear a lot of scratching and scraping, Ben.
Yeah, you can, and whether that's her feet or her helmet, whatever it is, it's going to cost you a little bit of time.
53.02. It's kind of where she was in training. That'll leave her maybe 10th or 12th place, 0.9 behind.
Laura will definitely have a few things to work on for the second heat here. But great start time. You see her just sort of skidding through the bottom of the chicane there, and it just sort of sends her sideways going into the left-hand corner. Heads up a little bit, trying to use her feet to correct the line of the sled.
And a trickle down through there like a little rivulet down between those banks. Next up then, Great Britain's Rose McGrandle lies 4th in the overall World Cup standings this season. A 6th, and an 8th place, her 3 results this year, but very quick in training. In the top 3, again on yesterday's final day of training. Coach Eric Bonotis, former US slider, holding the sled. It's a strong team in terms of talent and in terms of depth of talent, Ben. It's not just the Olympic champion and some others.
It sure is. The British have a fantastic program. They bring in athletes, they teach them how to slide. They're already good athletes when they get into the program, and you're seeing the benefits here. They have a really strong women's program. They've won the gold medals at the Olympics for the last 2 Olympics.
5:07 for Rose McGrandle, tied with leader Lizzie Yarnold, now 200s in front.
Nice line through the S-curve, nice and high, and snake 3. Bit of a hit there out of S4 though.
Tied with the race leader down the straight. How is she into the Kreisel? A whisker behind. 1:17.9, Lizzie Yarnold 1:18.1. This is a very good run. We might end up with a British 1-2. Oh! Drama in the S's. That was me, wasn't it? Sorry about that in the doodles. And you see what it's done to her speed. 1:04, not 1:13 or 1:15.
That's really what you're not looking for when you're coming out of Kreisel. Too high in the third pressure in Kreisel, and took that hit on the exit and just threw her around.
Sorry, Rose. I apologise for that in advance.
Here she is coming out of Kreisel. She's too high, gets thrown into that right wall. That's going to throw her across, and you see the after effect. She's too long on the first chicane, and it just throws her across again. She just, the entire chicane, she's getting thrown from one side to the other, and it's a miserable feeling. And these things are coming at you really quickly. You're doing about 100 k's. She's in the air there. She's flying.
Getting on for 70 miles an hour. Walls just hitting you from both sides. Tough run for Rose McGrandle. She lies 9th. Next up is Janine Flock of Austria. She didn't train yesterday. Sat out the final day of training, so either she wasn't feeling too good or she was feeling very good. Which one do we think it'll be? 3rd in the World Cup rankings. Bronze medal in Lake Placid. 4th place in Calgary, tied 4th. And then 12th place in Altenburg, a track that she really doesn't get on with hugely. And part of that is because it's a long, flat start. Her start is good, but it's not Marina Giardoni good.
Janine spent a lot of time on this track. Home track is obviously in Eagles in Austria, but the Austrian team comes here a lot and they train here a lot. She knows this track well, and she really could be on the podium today.
We're only a few miles from Salzburg. In fact, Salzburg in Austria is the nearest big city to us here.
A little bit high there on the end of it. S4 pushes her across into the wall a little bit, but she gets through the bottom of the bend away well there.
1:18.2, very good speed. That's the fastest we've seen so far.
Reasonable line out of Kreisel, but just skidding a little bit.
1:11.6, well, she's lost a lot of that advantage. This is taking her from 5th place, maybe dropping her back down to 8th where she started. Crosses the line in 5th still, so she did manage to keep that speed at the bottom. And that wind cheating ability that you have to learn when you learn at Eagles how to slide, that's kept her in good stead there, I think.
Yeah, Janine's a good slider, and she's been sliding for a long time now. Has a lot of experience on the World Cup and had a really good season last year. Here you see her coming out of Kreisel, and her line's okay, but the problem is that she's going sideways, and then the sled is going to catch, and it's going to point in the direction of that left-hand wall, and she just hits that and then gets pushed across here and skids a little bit going into the left-hand corner.
So much movement of the legs from the hips here. There seems to be quite a lot of steering going on this track. Well, let's take a look at our top 10 after the first 10 of our 21 sleds. Lizzie Arnold from Anja Huber-Selbach with Marina Giardoni and Maria Oliver at the moment, battling for the third podium spot. So our first 10 sleds, we've got 11 still to come, and only 20 will go through from the 21 into the second heat. And Ben, that's always a little bit of pressure, especially when you're sort of 15th on down in the starting order. So Eiko Nakayama 20th, Maria Mazalou of Romania 21st. Probably it's going to be between the two of them, unless one of the others has a disaster as to who's going to be watching the second heat rather than competing in it.
Yeah, you really have to feel a little bit unlucky today if you're that one person that misses the second heat. Only 21 in the race today, and the top 20 are going to go through and get that second run.
Well, it's one of the things that has changed in the sport quite recently, is that after the 2004 World Championships, the final run was cut down to just the best 20 sleds, which adds a little bit of extra jeopardy in the first heat, that's for certain. Well, you can see the mountains in the background. These big grandstands were built along with the rebuilding of the track, ready for the last World Championships here, and gives a great atmosphere. Berchtesgaden just up the road is where the FIL, the Luge Federation, is based, and it's been a centre for sliding for many, many decades. I mean, it's Germany's equivalent of Samoritz. It's, you know, here and Garmisch-Partenkirchen just up the road were big sliding centres. So the locals here really know their sliding.
They really do, and as you said earlier, this is the oldest refrigerated track in the world. I think it's been here since the early 70s, and there's a long tradition of sliding in this area, and a really strong sort of local sliding clubs and a local sliding scene, and it's great to come here.
It is. It's a very picturesque scene, and tomorrow we're expecting, well, I don't know, a foot, a metre of snow, depends on what weather reports, so tomorrow's outlook might be a very great deal whiter than it is at the moment, but either way, hopefully, we've got a busy programme of races to try and get through here in Königssee. Königssee, Bavaria, round 4 of the FIBT Viessmann Women's Skeleton World Cup. 11th of our 21 starters is the USA Savannah Grable, the 26-year-old. Best result of the season for her, 5th on home ice in Lake Placid. Martin Haven alongside me, Ben Sanford watching the action.
This is Savannah's first week on the track here in Königssee, and it's a tricky track to come to and have your first World Cup as your first week on the ice here. Hasn't had the best time in training, so she'll be hoping to get it right today in the race. Looking okay so far. Nice line out of S4. Skidding now on the straight though. You really need to keep this leg going in a straight line, especially in the bend away. Don't want to be going sideways. And quite high there. Will she get the exit of Kreisel? Rough through the chicane. Just getting thrown from one side to the other near the bottom of the chicane.
10-4, good enough speed to probably keep her in front of Rose McGrandle at the moment. 10th place it is, 53.36. Rose had that really tough ride through that lower labyrinth. And that, when you come here for the first time, that must be one of the most discouraging parts of the track, because the chances of you getting it right in 6 training runs are, well, 0 really. And so it's just going to be painful all the way through.
It's tricky. That exit of Kreisel is tricky. Like, you really have to get the balance between steering too much or not steering enough. And here, she comes out of Kreisel, she's going sideways a little bit. She taps on the left there, and that pushes her across, and then she's on the first kink too long, and that just throws her across here, and then you hit that wall, and you can see her legs sort of flailing around as she tries to get into the right position.
Well, so much of this sport, all of this sport, is about timing. It's like driving a racing car. If you get the first part of the corners wrong, then they all get more and more wrong as you go through them. There's just no chance of correcting. Annie O'Shea of the USA, 12th start draw for her. Right behind teammate Savannah Grable. Best result for Annie so far this season, only 9th place in Lake Placid. Just to try and find some of her form again.
Nice start from Annie there. A little bit too long on that first corner, and that's just pushed her across in a bit early into S1. She'll have time in the S-curves to correct that and hopefully get the exit of S4 right.
Run onto the straight. 400's up, 400's back, off S4.
Let's see how her Kreisel is here.
117.4, that's about the third best speed we've seen.
Just skids a little bit there in the third pressure in Kreisel, so that'll bleed a little bit of speed away.
So she managed to tidy it up a little. 111.3. Sixth position. Is that where she's going to finish? That would be a good basis for a second heat. Seventh place, 52.87. And that leaves her 700s in front of Sophia Griebel of Germany and 900s behind Tina Hermann of Germany.
Good run from Annie, 7th.
Yep. Splitting two Germans on a German track is never a bad thing.
Annie is a good starter, and you see her here pushing the sled, loading onto the sled and getting into position nice and quickly, coming out of the grooves here, and the grooves are good, sending her straight. Chin is nice and close to the ice. Here she is in Kreisel, and just watch her in the third pressure here. She's in the first pressure now, down, then up for the second pressure here, uses her toe, and then as she stares in the... No, we miss it.
That's always the way. So Annie O'Shea of the USA in 7th place. Svetlana Vassilieva of Russia, the 31-year-old. Big drama, remember in Calgary when she dropped her coat off at the start to find she did not have the vest with her number on it, which you must slide in. And then we had the pictures of her running into the changing room, grabbing it from her bag, pulling it on, running back and just missing the start. There's the clock at the start. You get 30 seconds only to start your skeleton, a minute to start a bobsleigh. If she had a minute, she'd have made it. Don't know what the run would have been like. Probably either genius or horrendous, but she got disqualified for that.
Into S1, S2. Quite low around S3. Doesn't really take the tap and skidding here in the bend away. Watch her use her toes to steer here in Kreisel. Oh, that might not end well here. No, she gets through just sort of okay.
She's works a little hard at the top of the track, and that's really led away the speed.
The last two corners here are all uphill.
Well, 13th place, 54.06. That is, in fact, behind Rose McGrandle, so that's good news for Rose. At the very least, she will absolutely guarantee a second heat. Svetlana probably not overjoyed with that one.
No, I think she'll be disappointed with that run. You see her coming out of Kreisel here, just a bit too high, and she hits the wall on the right, which sends her into a skid. And once things are going wrong in the chicane, it's almost impossible to fix it. You just have to roll with it and wait until the next corner and try and fix it there.
At the exit of the Kreisel, incidentally, when we see that shot again, the guy in the yellow jacket on the left of your screen, Kilian von Schleinitz, he'll be sliding in the men's race tomorrow. Well, next up is Elena Nikitina of Russia. Young sensation broke onto the World Cup 2 years ago with absolutely stunning starts and her first World Cup victory. Altenburg last week was her first World Cup race of the season. The A train of Russian athletes stayed in Europe before Christmas. She was third on the podium. Big start from Nikitina, and this is all part of her armory. She's very quick away.
Very good athlete, very good sprinter, fast at the start. Nice height in S3. Bit of a touch there coming out of S4. Working a little bit in the bend away to keep the sled going straight. There she is in Kreisel.
She really gets this ice business as well, doesn't she? This is only her 5th season of sliding. She's already in year 3 on the World Cup.
Smooth line through the chicane, not doing too much work there. And now heading uphill here.
6 tenths behind. She was a 10th up as she went into the S-curves at the top of the track. And 9 tenths back at the finish, 52.97. Coach Willi Schneider, the man with the white hair and the glasses, is also the man who builds all the sleds for the Russians. She looks relatively happy with that.
Willi Schneider, also former track record holder here in Königssee. You can see her just using her toe to steer in Kreisel. Steering down again as the sled rises. Then using her knee to try and keep it up. Sled skids a little bit in the third pressure, but she gets quite a good line here, but just doesn't keep the sled going in a straight line. A little bit of skidding. Rolling with the sled there to get it into the left-hand corner.
When you get that exit down in the middle of the gutter almost, that must feel really nice. Well, after 22-year-old Yelena Nikitina, now 19-year-old Karina Meyer had her birthday last week. Still the youngest athlete in the field. 15th, 14th and 12th her progress this season.
Nice form there, chin close to the ice, shoulders down.
Giving away a quarter of a second to the fastest starters and giving away over a tenth to the race leader, Lizzie Arnold.
A bit of noise as she went through the S-curves there, so maybe just using her toes to steer instead of her shoulders.
A lot of skidding side to side, roaring down the straight there. That shows in the speed.
Using her toe to steer in the second and third pressure in Kreisel. Nice line through the chicane. Around the echo corner and now coming uphill.
Over a second away, 14th place at the moment, in front of Vassilieva and Rose McGrandle at the line as she picks up a spot at the bottom. 53.4 slide. You saw Coach Martin Rettel looking pretty happy with that. I mean, only just turned 19. She's definitely work in progress, isn't she? She's got a lot of, you know, 2 more Olympic cycles. She'll barely be as old as Lizzie Arnold is now.
Yeah, young and with a lot of sliding experience already, and yeah, a lot of talent and years ahead of her.
Yeah.
Yeah, you see her loading onto the sled, getting into position, tucking her hands under the saddle, coming into Kreisel. Feet close together, not steering too much in the first pressure there, letting it run a little bit, but she'll start steering now as the sled starts to rise for the second pressure. Takes the steer off at the right time.
So, smiling Karina Meyer. Her teammate Janine Flock lies 5th. Maria Oliver, a race winner this year, is 4th, behind Giordani Huber and Olympic champion Lizzie Arnold. 15 sleds down, 6 to come here in Königssee, Bavaria. Jane Channel of Canada, former softball star, made her World Cup debut in Altenburg, Germany last week. 11th place finish for her.
Watch the start here.
New start record, 4:91, and Marina Giordani at the beginning of the run, 5:03. That's a great getaway. Well, Ben, you know, last week I said to her, great, you got your first World Cup start. Bad news, it's Altenburg. This is perhaps a little less intimidating an option, this track.
Yeah, and I think she spent more time here in Königssee than she had in Altenburg as well. Came here in the pre-season with the Canadian team and spent 1 or 2 weeks here sliding and getting to know the track. And the more you can go to the track, the more experience you have on the track, the better it's going to be, the better your timing is going to be.
Good speed.
At a Kreisel.
5th at the start, 7th into the Kreisel, back up to 5th place. Kept the speed alive in the Kreisel. That's good numbers. It's a really good run. Top 5 on the cards for Jane Channel of Canada in her 2nd ever World Cup race. 6th position, 52.74. Now, you've got to be happy with that as an athlete and a coach.
Absolutely, that was a great run from Jane. Solid start, did the main things on the track right, got the bend away, got Kreisel, had a nice line through the snake curves, and let it run where she could.
Latvian coaches helping out down at the bottom.
Jane's a great athlete, and here you see her pushing the sled. The timing doesn't start until you reach the 15-meter mark, so you push off the block and you've got 15 meters until you reach the first timing line, and that's where the time starts. Just using her toe there to pull the sled across and take that tap on the left, and you'll see pretty much every athlete taking that tap on the left. I haven't seen someone try and go through the bend away clean for a long time.
Takako Umukai of Japan, the younger of the two Japanese sliders, 29 years old now, from Nagano, sliding on a Bromley sled and coached by Mickey Grumberger, who's also coaching the Swiss. This is her first World Cup season, Ben Sanford. She's had better form so far, better results than teammate Eko Nakayama, despite a relative lack of experience.
Yeah, the newer member of the Japanese team in the women's field, and would have had a lot of runs in Nagano on the Japanese track there, and competed quite a bit in Europe on the FIBT IC circuit and EC circuit, so she knows these tracks.
1:15.5 is pretty middling speed.
A little bit high there on the exit of Kreisel, but gets through the chicane okay.
Like she might be on target for a top 10 finish, but sort of wriggled away from her. She's 14th place at the moment.
Skidding as she goes uphill, and that's really going to cost her some time.
That's indeed. 53.57 is the slide. And that leaves her 1.5 seconds off, and 2/10 behind Karina Meyer of Austria, who's in 14th place. So Latvian coaches, Aussie coaches. It's kind of a small family, isn't it? Everybody helps everybody else out.
It really is, and week after week you're traveling with the same people, and you get to know people, and you work together with people. That's the great thing about the circuit.
See her just settling herself. Landing in exactly the right position has got to be all but impossible in terms of the odds of it happening.
Yeah, you load onto the sled and then you set yourself up and wait for the grooves to finish and get your head nice and low, your shoulders down, and lock your arms in underneath you.
Takako Umukai of Japan is in 15th place out of our 17 sliders. 4 to go. Second World Cup race of the season for Laudia Procilena. Now 21 years old. Her first ever World Cup race. She flipped the sled at the start and lost it. It went down to the bottom. She didn't. Hope there's no such dramas here.
Bit of a difficult line coming out of the groove there for Lauda. And that's never a good way to start. It's always really unfortunate when you're the athlete and the groove sort of throws you to the left or the right and you have to start working on the line straight away. Nice line out of S4 and just pulling the sled across there. Into Kreisel, and then watch how she stares here in Kreisel.
Decent speed, 1:16.6.
Nice line through the chicane, nice exit of Kreisel.
15th place at the moment, which is pretty much where she was training. Caught up with her yesterday. I said, what have you learned so far this week? She said, how not to slide Königssee. Okay, all right, well, by process of elimination, up to 13th place at the line.
And the coaches look happy.
Yeah. 53.26 slide. Chatted to her in English and in Latvian on the Facebook site, so I know which one's going to get a lot more hits. It's a big, big following now for sliding in Latvia. And of course, her teammates, the Dukas brothers, have got an awful lot to do with that. Kicking things off, the Latvian bobsledders very definitely keeping lots of focus there. 18 sliders down, 3 to go here in Königssee, Bavaria. Let's see who is not going to make the race. At the moment, Svetlana Vasiljeva, 2 seconds off the pace is the target. Joske Leconte of the Netherlands, seeing the headshots, yellow, orange and blue suit. See at the top of the track, red, white and blue suit. She got a new training suit. She's racing in the old one, but she's got a new Bromley sled as well. Completely different livery underneath with the Dutch line and the Dutch colours.
Joske's been on the World Cup for a while, and it's one of the athletes on the World Cup who really does everything herself. You know, travels with her mum. Not a whole lot of coaching support.
Last Dutch male skeleton slider, Peter van Wees, retired a few years ago, so really got anybody even who speaks Dutch to go to for advice. The bobsleighing team is starting to recuperate.
Working quite hard through Kreisel and was unfortunate to have a few taps in the bend away.
Well, still, from 15th at the start, she was up into 12th place at the Kreisel. This could be a good run for Joska. 13th position ahead of Lelda Pretulena. She can hold that speed to the line. 13th it is. That's not bad. 53.09.
Martin Rettel there, the Austrian coach, helping Joska out. He looked happy.
Yep.
And I think Joska will be happy as well.
I reckon so. Where is she? She's 700ths off top 12.
13th place, and she had mistakes, and she can definitely improve in the second heat. Quite high there in the first pressure in Kreisel, and you'll see her just using the toe here to try and keep that sled from rising too high. Quite high in the second pressure. Coming out of Kreisel here, very close to the right-hand wall there, and just gets away with it.
She's just 0.2 of a second behind Annie O'Shea in 8th place. So we've got a group of 6 athletes covered by 0.2. That's going to be a very tense little battle in the second run. So 19 sleds down. Crunch time now for Eiko Nakayama of Japan. 44 years old from Nagano. Former track athlete, was also a skier. Last year we talked to her and she was kind of almost talking about giving up after Sochi, and Ben, she just can't stay away.
No, she can't. I think Aiko's just going to carry on sliding forever. Every year she sort of thinks about giving up, and then she'll often send me an email in the summer and say, I just can't give it up, I'm coming back.
It's hard to give up something you love, isn't it? And, you know, that's why everybody does this, from the youngest to the oldest.
Absolutely, and sliding, it's such a unique feeling, and there's nothing that can really replace that. It's a different feeling. It's just really high here in Kreisel, though.
Whoa!
Just misses the right hand in Kreisel.
Threads the eye of the needle, and she is in front of Svetlana Vassilieva. She was behind. Can she carry the speed to the line? She's got to be at the line inside 2 seconds behind Lizzie Arnold. And she is 18th place, so she pulled up 2 places in the lower part of the track, and that was kind of shaping everything up for those lower doodles. That's what got her back into the race. So 20 sleds down, all safely. Now, pressure on Maria Mazalou of Romania.
Here we see Aiko coming out of the S-curves, and she's just looking maybe a little bit too soon, and that sends the sled into a skid. You really have to come out of the S-curves and let it settle for a couple of meters, and then look. Coming out of Kreisel here, comes out too early and so close to that right-hand wall. Lucky not to hit and get thrown across to the left-hand side.
Not sure I've ever seen her without her smile, Eiko Nakayama. So Maria Mazalou of Romania trying to make the cut. Her second World Cup race of the season. Still just 19 years old, Maria. Caught up with the Romanians after training yesterday. But then she's had a bit of a struggle trying to find the rhythm.
Yeah, Maria hasn't had the best time in training on this track this week. But she does have a lot of experience competing and racing, and I think she knows what she wants to do on the track. She just hasn't quite been able to get it right. So she'll be looking to get it right here in the race.
9th fastest start is a great way to go about it. 12th place as she gets out of the S-curves.
A few taps there in the bend away. She's really been struggling in Kreisel, so it'll be interesting to see how she goes here. Quite high.
Quicker than Svetlana Vassilieva, but from 8th at the start, 9th at the start, she's now 18th. Got to hold it together here. Vassilieva was 1:10.6. This is going to be real pressure. 20th place now. Still in front of Vassilieva. She's got to bump the Russian, or she will be a spectator. She does. She's in 54.02. She's in the race, and Svetlana Vassilieva is the one who will go home, or at least will be watching from the sidelines. 0.04 of a second is the gap between them. That's as close as you want.
That's really close. Here you see Maria in Kreisel. Hasn't had the best time in Kreisel this week. She's been steering too much right through the Kreisel and quite high there in the second pressure. Coming out here, you see her in the chicane, just getting tossed around a bit here, and she loses quite a bit of time through this part of the track. She doesn't want to have her leg up in there, but there's nothing you can do when you get thrown around in the flick-flacks.
Yep.
Weighing the sled at the end to make sure that it's legal weight.
Lizzie Arnold of Great Britain, the Olympic champion, a gold and a silver from her 2 races so far this season, leads after the first heat. The second slide comes up. They go last to fast, 20 down to 1, and we'll be looking to the British girl to try and defend her lead and claim win number 2 of the World Cup season. So will she stay on top? Anja Huber is second, Marina Giardoni third, Maria Oliver, a race winner as well, in 4th place. We could have a new race winner, but that requires Lizzie Arnold to rather give it away, and the Olympic champion is not in the habit of doing that. Well, there are the gaps. Big gap first to second. Little tussle behind over the other podium spot. Janine Flock maybe not out of it either. We've seen lots of sliders have dramas in training. If it doesn't stay together, there could be more. And behind, from Annie O'Shea, look at those gaps. Just a few hundreds all the way down to Joske LeConte. And that 0.2 margin between 8th and 13th could see a lot of changes in the second heat. Further back as well, Eka Nakayama, Rose McGrandle, just a fraction apart. Savannah Grable battling Corinna Meyer by 400s. And Maria Maslow makes it into the race at the expense of Svetlana Vassilieva. So stay with us. Martin Haven and Ben Sanford will be back for the second and deciding heat. All the action coming this weekend from Königssee in Bavaria.